Today in Draw My Life, the last episode of Adventure Time. It was just a normal Saturday night. I was up watching Cartoon Network on the TV. I had just finished watching an episode of The Amazing World of Gumball. The TV said that a new episode of Adventure Time was on next. I was excited and wanted the commercials to hurry up and finish. But after I saw that episode, I wished the commercials would have stayed a little bit longer. Once they ended, Adventure Time came on. However, the opening didn't have any music, and none of the characters appeared except Finn and Jake. The animation was a bit different than usual, but I just went with it. The title came on and the episode was called It's Not My Fault, and it showed a picture of a bloody Jake running from what it looked like Finn holding a knife. I was terrified just seeing the intro and knew that something wasn't right. I tried to change the channel, but I couldn't. The show opened with Finn chasing Jake around the treehouse. Jake had found Finn's diary and was threatening to read it out loud. Finn screamed to Jake that he better give it back. Jake suddenly stopped and calmly handed the diary over to Finn. Jake said that he didn't have the intention to read it because he respected Finn's private business too much and that everyone, especially heroes, deserve some privacy. Besides, said Jake, I already know what's in there. A bunch of mushy stuff about Princess Bubblegum. Jake then transformed himself into the shape of Princess Bubblegum and began making kissing noises to mock on Finn. Several penguins were talking by the window at the moment and spotted Princess Bubblegum, aka Jake. They broke through the wall, grabbed Jake, and excitedly began to carry him away. With his sword drawn, Finn chased them. Jake escaped by transforming himself into a giant dog and barking ferociously at them. All of the penguins scattered in terror except one, who Jake catched with his lasso arm. Finn pointed his sword at the penguin and demanded to know why they tried to kidnap his best friend. The penguin refused to answer. Jake realized that they only wanted him because they thought that he was a princess, and Finn asked if the Ice King was kidnapping princesses again. The penguin glanced around nervously before nodding his head. Finn told Jake that they have to rescue the princesses and asked what it is. Adventure time, said Jake. The next scene showed Finn and Jake leaping through the window of the Ice King's fortress. The Ice King, surrounded by his army of penguins, laughed while facing a giant jail. The cage held every princess in the land of Ooh, except for Princess Bubblegum. Finn demanded the Ice King to surrender and release the princesses. The Ice King continued laughing and told Finn and Jake that they couldn't stop him this time. Two giant penguins suddenly appeared and grabbed Finn and Jake. As the heroes struggled against the penguins, the Ice King began to explain his plan. You know, I've always wanted to marry a princess, he said. Well, tonight I shall have my wish granted. As you can see, I have captured every princess in the land except one. But don't worry, she already received my message. Either she agrees to marry me or I will kill all of the princesses. You and I both know which choice she'll make. She's just too noble. Jake began to panic and told Finn that the Ice King might be right. Princess Bubblegum might marry him after all. Empowered by the fury of a jealous lover, Finn exploded in a rage of violence. Unleashing a mighty, cracking scream, he punched free from the giant penguin guards and launched himself at the Ice King. With a flying kick, Finn knocked the Ice King to the ground and drew his sword. The princesses cheered, and the defeated Ice King began whining in disappointment. He began to scream and raise his sword above his head. The Ice King was surprised and asked Finn what was going on. You've won, admitted the Ice King. You can take the princesses and go. No, screamed Finn. Everyone in the room went silent and stared at the lifted blade. As a hero, I must fight evil. And this is the last time you will ever kidnap someone, shrieked Finn. In one quick motion, Finn swung his sword at the Ice King's neck, splitting his head in half. The caged princesses started screaming uncontrollably. Jake had the Ice King's head held with his hands, his face frozen in a silent scream. Finn slowly came to his senses and stared at the Ice King's decapitated corpse with vacant eyes and began to mutter apologies. I didn't mean to actually. I mean, it was an accident. It's not my fault, said Finn, his eyes filled with tears. This is your fault. Dr. Princess had moved to the front of the cage and was now looking directly at Finn. You had already defeated him. You didn't have to do this. But I'm a hero, cried Finn. It was an accident. No, Finn, said Dr. Princess. You have done something very, very serious. The Ice King is dead, and it's all your fault. It's not my fault, screamed Finn. He jumped out the window and ran off into the snow. Princess Bubblegum and Lady Unicorn arrived, and Jake told them what had happened. They freed the rest of the princesses and left to search for Finn. The princesses returned to their kingdoms, but they had seen too much. The next scene showed Finn swinging, trying to process what he had done. He kept repeating that what he did was for the good of the others. He didn't mean to kill him, but it only happened because he was trying to do the right thing, trying to protect the princesses. His thoughts were interrupted when one of the penguins discovered him. It's Gunther, the Ice King's favorite penguin. Gunther began honking loudly to alert the others. Finn grabbed the penguin and put his hand over its mouth, but Gunther bit him. Finn drew his sword and pointed menacingly at Gunther, telling him to be quiet. Gunther stopped honking and began to accuse Finn with gestures and squeaks. Finn screamed that he wasn't a murderer. Gunther continued to blame him. Something inside of Finn snapped, and with a sense of righteousness anger, he threw Gunther off and screamed at the top of his lungs, "It's not my fault!" In another sickeningly fluid motion, Finn arced his sword and sliced Gunther completely in half. Through the vivid blood, as it began to pour from the body, I could see Finn. With Gunther's accusing cries now silenced, Finn realized the solution to his dilemma. He must kill everyone who witnessed his crime. For the next several minutes, a gruesome montage played out across the screen. Beginning with Dr. Princess, Finn proceeded to brutally murder every princess in an attempt to erase his crime. In every kingdom across the land of Oo, the same scene played out. In total silence, Finn approached every princess, swung his sword, and spilled more blood across the screen. By the end of the scene, I could hardly see the characters through the red blood. After murdering the princesses, Finn realized that there was only one witness left: Jake. He traveled to the Candy Kingdom and confronted Jake in front of Princess Bubblegum. Jake transformed into a giant dog with a sword in hand and fought with Finn. Finn demanded to know whether Jake thought it was all just an accident or if he too considers Finn a murderer. Jake said that he knew Finn. He knew that he would do anything to help anyone, but that this time he went too far, and that even a hero should be willing to face up their crimes. Finn dropped his sword and bowed his head. He began to cry. Jake shrank down and began to hug him. Suddenly, Jake screamed. Finn's sword was buried deep within his stomach. "I'm so sorry," said Finn. "I'm so sorry. This is all my fault again." As Jake lay dying, Finn looked up and saw Princess Bubblegum staring at the scene in horror. The pink had drained from her face. Finn, still holding his bloodied sword, began to walk towards her. Only one witness remained. Princess Bubblegum fell back and raised her arms to defend herself as Finn continued forward. She began to sob. Finn paused and above her said, "I'm sorry." He raised his sword. "This is all my fault." Then the screen went black. Did you like the story? Scary, huh? Thanks for sticking with us until the end, and let us know in the comments what other show you'd like us to talk about. And don't forget to subscribe. See you next time!